In this week's The News, the only part of the economy that seems to be growing is the bad part. Who needs experts in the fight against greenhouse gas emissions anyway? Will tourists really flock here because a tyre company says we've got good food? And it's time to try and forget the horrors of the modern world with collectibles and joy. Do you remember joy? Yeah, me either. All that and more on this week's The News. Hello there, kia ora, welcome to This Week's The News. I'm Paul, and despite my best efforts of a single Facebook post saying it would be funny if it happened, I won't be the new weekend newsreader at One News, so I guess I'll just keep this up for a while longer and not be bitter about it at all. The latest Stats NZ employment data was released this week, showing an extended period of economic downturn as the highest number of people unemployed since the mid-90s and the highest percentage of unemployed since 2016, increased hardship with slowing wage growth behind the rate of inflation, underemployment increasing and fewer hours being worked, said economist Craig Rennie, seen here showing the Finance Minister how many 5 is. Unemployment in New Zealand is now well above the OECD average, the UK, Australia and the US. Working New Zealanders and their families are hurting and the promised recovery keeps being pushed back. In response, Finance Minister Nicola Willis, seen here not quite grasping how many 5 is, said, yeah, but Labour is looking at taxing capital gains, and do you have any idea how taxing previously untaxed income is going to impact the average person renting, unable to make ends meet or looking to leave for Australia who don't own multiple properties? No, seriously, I want to know. All I've seen is our TikToks that take comments out of context and manipulates them to try and vilify an idea with generally broad support from voters. The Labour Party has released new policy this week tying into their overall plan to take healthcare into the 2026 general election as a core issue for voters. The new announcement would see free cervical cancer screenings for anyone aged between 25 and 69. 85% of those diagnosed with cervical cancer have never been screened or have missed screenings, and doctors say it is one of the most easily preventable cancers with regular screening and the HPV vaccine. In response, Health Minister Simeon Brown, seen here shocked to discover highly trained and sought-after medical professionals should be compensated fairly, said, yeah, but did they raise the age of eligibility for bowel cancer screening for Māori and Pacifica men and take funding from Māori programs to pay for it, ignoring ethnicity-based disparities in cancer formation and claiming it would be better because while more Māori and Pacifica men might go undiagnosed, other groups would have slightly earlier access to testing? Well, did they? The coalition has quietly ended 6 years of cross-party consensus on climate change approaches after unveiling significant changes to the Zero Carbon Act without consultation with opposition parties. The Act itself was crafted over 2018 and 2019 with negotiations between Labour, the Greens, New Zealand First and National to come up with a broad act to work towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which was voted unanimously in the House and saw the creation of the Independent Climate Change Commission to provide advice and monitor progress towards 5-yearly carbon budgets. Under the announced changes, the government will no longer get advice from the Commission on how to meet budgets to reduce emissions and can change emissions plans without consultation. There's less public scrutiny on the targets and the government will no longer have to consult on final decisions for budgets. This follows a decision last week to reduce methane targets and exclude the largest methane producers in the country from said targets. Said Climate Change Minister Simon Watts, seen here trying to get a piece of coal out of his teeth, we want a future where the remnants of humanity are warm and toasty, and this is how we will achieve that. It'll be a built-in solution for the energy crisis to completely get rid of winter altogether. Minister of Health Simeon Brown, seen here confused to discover that there's a difference between oncology and ophthalmology, has announced the addition of 140 new beds to 4 hospitals, claiming they will ease pressure on emergency departments, support faster admissions and discharges, and improve patient flow across the hospitals. The prefab building models will each have a different role based on the hospital that they're based at and are due to be completed just in time for the government to claim a victory just before the next election. Said Brown of the project, these new wards will make a real difference for both patients and whatever staff are left after the rest quit due to being underpaid or find better work in Australia that compensates them properly for the hard work that they do. The controversial Regulatory Standards Bill, which saw 98% of submissions oppose it, has passed its second reading in Parliament this week after a fiery debate where critics pointed out it puts ACT Party ideologies front and centre of government decision-making, overriding everything else, including Te Tiriti o Waitangi, said Regulations Minister David Seymour, seen here with a convicted sexual offender and former party president for ACT. This bill will make the legislative process more transparent, principled and accountable. Just like us when we find out a senior party official has been accused of a heinous crime against young people and they get name suppression in court because it might harm our chances of being re-elected. The National Party has found a new group to punch down on this week: rough sleepers. Earlier this week, the government confirmed it was considering new measures that could see people living on Auckland's inner city streets forcibly removed, with discussions going on about how to give police the tools to do that. While experts in the field have said that the move would be totally and utterly ineffective and that the best way to tackle the issue was to deliver proven programs that provide housing, health and wraparound support. This news came hot on the heels of an announcement from the government that they were now spending $20 million less on emergency housing grants than a year ago, said Associate Housing Minister Tama Potaka, seen here realising one of his co-government ministers has done something race-baity and he has to respond without putting everyone on blast. Our focus is on helping people into the right housing solution for them, one that supports their stability, independence and their long-term well-being. In short, we have gutted the amount of kāinga ora houses being built and working on, and cut benefits, increased sanctions and tanked the economy, making it harder to find work. But their long-term well-being is what's important here. In a move supported by a $6.3 million investment from the Tourism Levy and Tourism New Zealand's government funding, the Michelin Guide has been secretly tasting and rating some of the country's best restaurants, according to the Tourism Minister, Louise Upston, seen here with the real reason the government announced plans to encourage more tourism from China. Over the past 12 months, Michelin reviewers have visited Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch and Queenstown, exploring what the guide describes as an exciting gastronomic destination with exceptional restaurants. The funding was justified as helping bolster tourism, with claims from Upston saying the guide will mean more visitors dining in those restaurants. And we had to work bloody hard to make sure no one gave them one of our school lunches or their taste buds would have quit in protest. For some reason, the Finance Minister, Nicola Willis, seen here showing Grant Robertson how she's still going on learning how many is 5, has come out defending the removal of Te Tiriti obligations for schools, claiming its inclusion in 2020 was virtue signalling to make the Labour Party feel good in a recent interview on Radio New Zealand. Willis went on to say it's not made an iota of difference with the kids whose learnings we're focusing on. And sure, it may be out of step with what educators say, experts in Māori learning development say, and parents say, but it keeps our friends at Hobson's Pledge happy, and isn't that the most important thing when it comes to teaching our young people? NetSafe is reporting a significant jump in the number of Kiwis losing money to online scams in October, totalling $6,264 of reported losses, compared to just under $2,000 for September, with the average loss also increasing in October. And they're warning that with Christmas approaching, the public need to be hyper-vigilant on spotting scammers, who ramp up during the holiday sale season. Credit card scams typically involve collecting payment card numbers and using them for other purchases. New scammer tools include using WhatsApp and other instant messaging services, as well as social media ads. These scammers are getting sophisticated and take advantage of when people are looking for deals, and would also suggest not donating to anything linked with Brian Tamaki or the coalition government members. Not because they're exactly scams, but because you could do better, said a spokesperson for NetSafe. Children's Minister Karen Chower, seen here angrily storming out of an interview after denying boot camps would allow for our kids to be physically punished, but before Cabinet agreed to let kids at boot camps be physically punished, has been forced to apologise after seemingly cherry-picking data sets that gave a misleading impression of the level of abuse currently occurring in state care systems. According to Oranga Tamariki's annual report, there were 33 fewer findings of harm in state care residences last year, but across the wider state care system, reports of abuse increased to the highest level on record. Said Chow of the admission of using incorrect statements to paint a better picture of the situation, "I would never intentionally mislead victims of abuse in state care. We were very open about gutting funding, cancelling contracts, removing Te Tiriti-focused clauses, ignoring the data that showed these were having incremental positive outcomes, and helping young people so we could give money to tobacco companies and landlord tax breaks." And finally, this weekend sees the return of the Retro event, the biggest family expo celebrating 80s and 90s pop culture nostalgia. With over 300 vendors, retro gaming stations, a curated 80s and 90s music playlist, cosplay competition and more, the event is being held at Event Finder Stadium on Auckland's North Shore and promises to be a celebration of nostalgia. Said organisers of the event, we wanted to celebrate a love of the pop culture that shaped us, and remind us of a simpler time before we discovered that the lack of access to information like we all have in our pockets these days wasn't the reason for so many people seeming to be so ill-informed, unsympathetic of others and lacking empathy. And that's it for this week's news. Don't forget, there's still time to vote for Paul the Other One for this year's New Zealand Podcast Awards Listener's Choice. Details are in the link tree found on my page or in the description below. Live long, prosper, be one with the Force, and until next time, remember to look out for real spiders hiding in your neighbour's fake cobwebs that they still haven't taken down from Halloween. Oh hey, thanks for getting to the end of the video here on Facebook. While you're here, why not hit that subscribe button so you can be kept up to date with other things that I do. Scienticians tell me it'll make you 27% smarter, so why wouldn't you?